Hi and welcome to our program. Today we are visiting Museum Overtachi and its new premises. So follow me for a tour around the special exhibition Body Ideals, Oppression and Liberation.
Then we've got these ones. These are all by the same artist as well. I just think they're so interesting because of the use of colour. Like you see the colour burst, and I get this positive thought from all the use of colours, and it's so vibrant. But they also look so sad, like this screaming. You just get that sense of frustration. I get all tense looking at them for too long because I think everyone's had that feeling at one point where they just want to like put their face in a pillow and just scream to let everything out. And that's what these pictures are doing. Like both this one and the big one. They're just letting out feeling.
Yeah, but it's funny because like screaming usually is like not a bad thing, but to release the tension. And then the colors are so bright and vibrant, so it's a nice contrast actually.
That's the thing, because it's so messed up with the feelings, like you're screaming to get rid of that aggression and that frustration, but there's also something kind of therapeutic in just having a wee scream and just letting everything out. Like if you go on a rant about everything that's been shitty about your day, you feel better afterwards. And it might not make it everything better, but you feel better for a bit. And I just think that shows something great about the contrast. And I know that they're all about the twistedness of feelings kind of thing. That's obviously the twisted bodies. No one can open their mouth that wide. Yeah. It's just that twisted feelings of how you're made to feel about yourself that needs to be let out in some kind of outlet. Yeah.
But it's also not nice that people don't really feel that they are allowed to express that, like
that you have to sit with that feeling on the inside.
Yeah.
And because if you stand there and scream in the middle of the street, everyone's going to think you're a weirdo. Yeah. And if you're that guy at a bar who sits there talking about, well, my life's shit, everyone's going to leave because then you're a bummer. So you don't get to talk about it. You don't get to let it out in the same way that you need to do. You have to be in your own private place to do it. But that's what we kind of want to change. We want to be able to let you stand there and scream. Yeah. That scream bloody murder. I mean.
Yeah. Shall we? Yes, we shall.
This one is terrible, not the piece itself, but the story behind this is it's a man whose daughter has been diagnosed with quite a terrible disease. So it's a picture of her letter from a doctor with her diagnosis, and then a picture of him and his daughter together, and it's just about her pain, because it's quite a severe genetic thing she has. And he made that in a sense of she's more than this, but it takes up so much of who she is. And it's just it's quite painful. We were all quite, because when you see it at first you're like, oh, it's a collage, that's nice. But the more you look at it, the more you can kind of be overwhelmed by the pain that that can cause to see your daughter suffer that much and know she'll have to suffer for the rest of her life and be completely useless in that sense, because you can't do anything. You can't make her better. You can't fix anything. And she'll always be judged by that. That's all she's ever going to be for so many people.
Yeah.
And it just, I think it comes to view quite nice, and just this little thing that his relationship with his daughter is more important than the diagnosis, but that's always going to be there as well. It's always in the background.
It's very sad.
It's really sad. It makes me really quite depressed.
Yeah. And what about this one?
This one is a video piece. I think it's quite strange as well, because you just kind of stand there and watch, like, what is she doing? What's going to happen next, kind of thing. And it's just her sort of existing, but in a weird way. I don't remember fully what it's about, but every time I watch it, I'm just like, she exists in different places. There's a scene in a bathroom as well. And it's just a bit of different noises, bit of different movements, but it's never really anything other than her existing but seeming out of place. And that says quite a lot to me, in the sense of, you're always going to exist. Like, until the day you die, you're going to be here. But that feeling of not fitting in, being like the sore thumb sticking out kind of thing, like, you wouldn't expect anyone to sit there and eat a sandwich in what looks like a bathroom floor. It just sticks out in a weird way, and that a lot of people can have that feeling about themselves of never really quite fitting in with society, both bodily and mentally, in that sense. But she also has this relation to the camera, in a sense, like...
Yeah, it's very interactive with the camera.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I get that sense as well. Like, she's just staring at me, so it makes me, like, self-conscious about my own existence, kind of thing.
Like, why is she staring? Is something wrong?
Yeah. And it's very direct. It does something, because you sit there and watch her eat, and you're about, like, oh, okay, I can walk away, and then she does that, and you're like, what's going to happen now?
Definitely. But, yeah. Yeah, it's making me a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Let's proceed.
I think this is a fun one, because, let's be frank, it's a butt. And it's quite out there. It's kind of impossible not to see that. But it's a strong body, and I think it's just kind of it gives me that sense of, yeah, that's a body. And it's there, and it's unapologetically there. Yeah. That's a strong body, and to me, it's kind of it's part of the liberating feeling for me, in the sense of, here's my body, look at it, it's there, you're not going to do anything about it, and I'm allowed to be here, kind of thing. It's just a quite positive vibe.
It's like a statement.
Yeah. It's giving that sexuality as well, and, like, for example, Lizzo, unapologetically there, shaking her ass on camera, loving it. It's kind of the same vibe of, like, is
not apologizing for your body.
Yeah, and your sexuality part of your body, like, it's not inherently sexual, but it becomes inherently sexual in society. But kind of having that conversation about, is that okay as well? And to me, obviously, that's okay. We have to be able to exist in any way we want to exist. And for that to just be there and be in your face and be like, this is an ass.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and you need to be able to be okay with it being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ah, mermaids.
I think this one's quite funny as well because it has a contrast to the other pieces as well in like the drawing but also painting kind of sense, and it's just, mermaids have always been kind of a, it feels weird to say, but like a sex symbol. Like you watch The Little Mermaid and yeah, she's a 14-year-old, it's not sexy at all, but for a lot of people that was the beauty standard, and mermaids have kind of become this mythological beauty standard. Like, who didn't want to be a mermaid when they were like 10 years old?
True that.
I think it's a quite nice and quite funny way to be commenting on it, because it's just happy colours and happy vibes. It doesn't really say anything inherently negative or positive to me, but it shows a beauty standard that's been there for so long, even though historically it was probably manatees, so they should probably be a bit bigger. But I think it's just a quirky, sweet way to talk about body image.
There's a lot of like fantasy vibes. It's nice.
Yeah.
Even the colors, like, are very, very fantasy. Like.
Yeah, that's the sense. Like all those pastel colors and the deep blue and that gives me childhood feelings, but it also says quite a lot about how, even in fantasy and the mythological, we're always going to have to be able to look at bodies in a certain way, and we've looked at those bodies since we were very, very small children in Disney movies, with the princesses with the waist the size of your pinky kind of thing. Like, you can't really escape, no matter where you go, the body image that's always going to be there.
Yeah, it's a bit bad.
Yeah.
Ooh, this has interesting colors also.
I quite like these. They give me like an 80s vibe in the use of colours and like the block paintings.
Yeah.
It's different angles of a statue called Aarhuspien.
Okay.
The Aarhus girl. That was a bad translation. But it's like different angles of her body as like a beauty standard, a beautiful body, and it's supposed to be like a, I do not have that word right now, but like a hooray for the female body, exclaiming how beautiful it is, and her as part of like being that body, that beautiful body. Because like you've got the wide hips, you've got the kind of saggy everything, the little tummy bend and the nudity that's unsexualized in a sense, but it's just beautiful. And it's supposed to just be that sort of hooray for female beauty. I think it's just quite a nice and positive piece, giving that liberation feeling of, even in statues, the beauty is so evident, and it doesn't have to be the Paris Hilton bodies and the Kim Kardashian bodies and that. It can be this as well, which is quite an old statue as well.
Yeah, it really fits with the colors, like the vibe also. Yeah. I really like the colors.
The colors are so saying in what it's supposed to be saying. Like you don't look at this and think that's negative.
Yeah,
you could
definitely.
Never. It just has such beautiful, vibrant colors that gives that extra addition to calling this is beauty.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And that's part of the conversation as well, saying there are body ideals, there is beauty in women. It's not just saying this is harming me, this is liberating me. It can just be bodies are beautiful. All bodies are beautiful, and this is just one of them.
Great. Should we move to the poem?
Yeah.
The window? It's a bit hard to read.
Yeah, it really gains its traction at night when it's completely dark behind it. We had quite a long conversation about how we were going to do this one, because if we did it as a piece of paper on the wall, it was never going to have that effect. But letting it stand there and being a part of its surroundings just gave it sort of an oomph in a different way than we could ever do with anything else. We wanted it to stand on its own and be able to tell its own story. It's quite sad that it's in Danish, because it's really a beautiful poem.
Yeah.
It's about weight in general and like how that affects your mind.
Weighting?
Weight. Like,
weight. Yes. Like your body weight.
Yeah, body weight kind of thing, and how that affects like your mind in a sense. It's hard to explain fully. I just think it's quite beautiful because it has like a lot of like cubic roots, liters, blah blah blah. It has scientific terms as well in the sense of trying to understand what weight is and what meaning that can have, but also on a personal sense. it's quite a beautiful poem. It's just a shame you can't really see it that well with the light background, but it gives it the sense that putting on the window, you can see out, you can see your surroundings, you can see other people in the reflection, and it means you're not alone with the feelings that you get from the poem and the feelings that are in the poem inherently.
Yeah, a piece of paper wouldn't do that, definitely.
No, that's the thing, because you get to stand here. I can see myself in the reflection while I'm reading the poem, and it kind of makes you feel seen if you are relating to the poem.
That's a really nice detail. Okay, this is the second interactive part.
There's a few pieces collected here.
Ah, okay, okay.
I'll stand here.
This is weird.
Yeah, it's quite it's common on like the white body, the blue eyes being the beauty standards. Like brown eyes looked down upon. Like there's always going to be a racist aspect to beauty standards as well, because like the white body with the blue eyes is the classical beauty. I don't personally mean that, but from way back, that's always been the beauty standard that's been put up as white people more beautiful than other people. Like, it's quite a comment on that and the suppression of a glorification, but in quite a weird sci-fi way.
Yeah, really weird.
At first I was like, what on earth is that supposed to be? But the title is blue is for pretty people, and brown is for, and then it has a bunch of racist terms that I don't like. But obviously it's a satirical, critical thing. I really don't think he's a racist himself. I don't think at all.
Just to bring some attention to the issue.
Yeah, to bring attention to the fact that beauty standards are inherently racist as well. That's a bit more political than some of the others are. Quite like that we get that aspect of the conversation as well, because it is, all bodies are inherently political. I think it was Judith Butler that started that conversation. Like, our bodies have become political and always have been, because it's always been about socioeconomics. Back in the day, the fat bodies were beautiful because that meant you had money for food, and then the tan ones became beautiful because that meant you had money for traveling, and it's always been part of politics.
Everything is connected.
Yeah. And this one,
please explain.
It's obviously supposed to be a video on Instagram, commenting on like this Instagram beauty.
Okay.
And it's down in the bottom. You can't see it because of this, obviously, but see if I can remember
You
it.
still have 0 likes?
Yeah, you still have 0 likes. That our entire worth is based on that. And we become animated through the use of like feeling like fake people, but we have to be these fake people. But even when we are, it doesn't mean we get the validation that we need. Yeah, it's just quite a funny and weird scientific way to do it.
Yeah, I was so confused because I was listening, I was hearing, I really like your feet, not feet, and I was like, what? What's happening here?
I hear that actually.
That's so funny. But yeah, okay, I understood now that it's feet.
Yeah.
Feet, it makes sense. I mean, feet would also make sense because it's body ideals and everything. But yeah, I was just very curious.
Yeah, and I quite like
this one.
The me when I'm not, because it is a picture of you, but it's not the real you kind of thing. Very much commenting on the use of social media in the sense of talking about body images. Putting sweat on this.
And what about this two?
These two, I quite like. They're quite post-human science fiction-y in their output. It kind of looks like a picture from either a doctor's office in the 1940s or something that's taken out of, I do not remember any sci-fi movies right now. Any sci-fi movie, to be honest. Anything with robots in it as well. Like it gives this scientific, mathematical view of a human. Yeah. Like almost doctorial, digital in a sense, that removing the human aspect from the body and from our appearance and giving it more of a scientific image. Because when we measure our bodies, when we, like, is it symmetrical? Is it this? Is it that? How much do we weigh compared to this? You remove the human aspect of it.
Definitely.
I think it's quite an interesting way to work with it as well. Like I would have that hanging on my wall without thinking about it.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really aesthetically pleasing.
But it also makes, like, you have to think a little more with these than, for example, with the Instagram one, because that one kind of makes sense to everyone who's ever had social media. But this has to make you think and be like, what does this mean? How do I feel when I look at it? I think that's quite interesting ways to do it. You very rarely see art like this anymore, I'd say. That was very much a thing, like, before the millennial kind of thing.
Yeah, and whenever you see it, it's so expensive because, as you mentioned, you don't really see it anymore.
Yeah, because you buy a poster with that and you easily get away with like 400 or something.
Yeah, it's so expensive. Shall we go to this one or this one?
The suit or the...
Maybe the suit before.
Sure. I really quite love this suit. I can try to... So you can see it from the front. It's different parts of a human body in leather sewn together to create sort of like the perfect body.
Okay.
That old idea of if I could have her arms or if I could have a different belly in that, and just a skin suit made from that idea of the perfectly curated body. And it looks dreadful, obviously. Like, it's such an interesting piece in the sense that it's this suit we put on of perfection of body ideals. But no one would want to look like this at all, because you've got the hairy chest that's masculinity, you've got the thin waist of femininity, and just all the different body ideals put together. That just kind of shows how silly it is, in a sense, to have that idea.
Yeah.
You've got the back as well.
That's a really nice way to bring some attention to the topic.
It's really quite interesting. We just had to have this as well, because it's such a different way to do art. It's sculptural, but it's also design and political, and it's a nice use of using different media. That gives us sort of an interesting space. A lot of people walk up and think it's quite uncomfortable because you see the stitches of the body and you see everything that's wrong. It's like this unheimlich feeling. It's like, this is wrong. It's not supposed to look like this.
Yeah, it's very unnatural.
Yeah, and it becomes interactive as well, because you can, obviously, you're not supposed to really touch it, but you can move around it, and it moves around with you by itself because it's hanging the way it is. So you kind of just have to look at it. It's right there in your face.
Yeah. Yeah, but uncomfortable also.
Yeah.
That was it for today. Thank you so much for staying with us. We hope you enjoyed this program as much as we did. See you next time.
Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Kunne du tænke dig at lave dit eget radioprogram? Bliv frivillig radiovært i Radiohuset Aarhus.
Ungdomsradio. Ungdomsradio. Ungdomsradio.